Well, hi, everybody. This is Dear Mama Sal, and we're live on a Friday lunchtime, which means it's time for us to talk about coping with feelings. And I hope you're feeling great today. And I hope you're feeling better today. And I hope, above all else, that you will continue to do that. Our broadcast today is about feeling better, be it about your life, be it about your health, be it about your relationships. It's about what can we do to feel better? So often, I wish I'd understood this when I was in my 20s. I kept waiting for somebody to come and rescue me from all my stuff, right? I don't know if any of you relate to that. But the funny thing is, I now know better and I understand more that it's not going to happen. For those of you who don't know, Dear Mama Sal is not just me, it's a group of us that get together 3 times a week to hold each other's hands and yours as we go through life. I have a quote from a monk that says, "Smile, breathe, and go slowly." And never has that been more relevant to my life than it has been this year. So many things have changed in my life that to remember to smile, breathe, and just go slowly. My life was lived in such a frenzy. Jody's saying she thinks she hears a beeping. It might have been my firmer. Is it still going on, Jody? Jody is our admin. Ah, well, I don't know what it is. Okay. um, I don't know what it is. So, and I can't hear it, unfortunately. So, we'll just carry on and pretend it's not there for now. All right. Before, I just wanted to let you know if you are new to the broadcast, this doesn't normally happen. If you are new to the broadcast, please, please, please make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter because that's where I let you know if we're, for any reason, have to stop a broadcast or change something about a broadcast or give you updates on viewers that you might know. And also make sure that you here on YouTube click the bell and the thumbs up, obviously, if you hear anything that's of value, which you will if you listen. And, to me, this is about we all need to feel better, right, in so many different ways. And I just want you to understand it is within your control to some degree. But before we get on to that topic, I just wanted to talk a little bit, as usual, just update on birthdays and important things. First of all, it's going to be Laurie's Life Journey's birthday, that Laurie, on the 2nd of April, and Jody's on the 3rd. So very happy birthday to you both. Very serious thoughts and prayers, please, for Nyasha. I was speaking with her early today, and she is about to have possibly a double cornea transplant. In other words, they're going to take the cornea out of both eyes, and replace them. It is still doubtful at this stage whether the infected eye is going to be able to be corrected, and that is obviously a huge concern. But she has an infection in it, and they're trying to get rid of the infection, and it's already done a lot of damage, from what I can gather. And so, our thoughts and prayers go out for her. I'm certain that none of us can imagine what that must feel like to know that they're about to operate on both your eyes, not just one, both of them, and that you may run the risk of losing your sight altogether, in one eye. It is, ugh, horrible thought. And poor Nyasha, like she hasn't had enough to put up with, right? So if you know her, if you're in touch with her, let's give her the support she deserves. I'm hoping that Jeannie by now is over COVID. I think she told me yesterday that she was, but she was still staying, low to the ground until Easter when she's going to go to church, obviously. Kimmy with her pacemaker, I haven't had an update whether that's still giving trouble, but I believe it is. And Lauren in Tasmania was telling me that she's got some pretty frightening sleep apnea things going on. That's where you stop breathing during the night. I have that problem, so I understand that. And she was saying that she woke up one morning absolutely gasping for air and in panic. And the funny thing was I did that last night, so I know that feeling. Really strange. So if we missed your birthday and you're a regular viewer, please let us know. And the reason I asked for that is because if we missed it, it's not in our database, and I would like to have it there. So here's the question. Take a moment. How do you feel better about yourself? How do you feel better about your life and maybe your health or your relationships? I'm pretty certain that if you are a DearMamaSal viewer, that you don't think it's going to happen by chance. I'm pretty certain you do something. All right. And to me, it is understanding that we need to do something that is the important part of the discussion. Doing something is vital. Sorry, I just managed to nuke my notes again. Is really vital to feeling better. If you don't do anything, if you expect that somebody to come and rescue you from whatever it is, then I'm afraid that you're going to have a very long wait. However, here's hoping that today finds you feeling much better. And I would remind you that we're talking about feelings, and feelings, whatever the feeling is within our control. All right. And that's really helped me whenever I say to myself, what am I feeling today? I acknowledge the feeling, whether it's angry, frustrated, sad, happy, creative, feeling productive, whatever. I remember that that's all within my control, right? My feelings are mine. Nobody else's. They're my feelings. And I'm entitled to them. And there's nothing wrong with them. And they're no good ones or bad ones. They just are feelings. And I'm a great believer now that the feelings that I have, I heard that one. The feelings that I have are warning signs for me. All right. That for me to sort of take notice. And that's how I like to look at it. So I've got a lot of viewers here that cope with all sorts of different things in their lives. And so that's why I wanted to ask the question, what is it that you do to feel better? Because I don't want to presume that I have the right answer. What I want to do is to tell you that we do within us have answers because we know ourselves. We know what we need, not what somebody else needs, but what we need. I saw a really nice quote, and it said, when you start taking care of yourself, you start to feel better. You start to look better. You start to attract better. You see, it all starts with you. So on the other side of this, I also understand that there are days when you are just going to want to do absolutely nothing about helping yourself. I've been there. And so here's a quote for you guys that just said, sending you all the strength you need for this road ahead. I keep thinking how difficult that must be for Nyasha when she doesn't have that many people around her. And I am hoping that we will all relate to the fact that that must feel very lonely for her at this time. So let's do what we can. And for the rest of the people who are struggling at the moment. Saw a great article this week. I read an article, and it was about two sisters. And those two sisters both were well into their hundreds. I think one was 108 or 9, and the other was 106 or something. And obviously, the question was asked, what have you done in your life that has allowed you to live this long? And by the way, they looked great. They looked like they were in their 80s. They didn't look like they were 100. And what I loved was their simple answers. You know, I didn't hear that they, gave up carbs, for example, or that they, ran a marathon or did whatever. I like the simple answers that they gave. And so I thought I would share with you their recipe for living longer. And I've got a quote here that says, the greatest healing therapy is friendship and love. And I, for one, am very grateful for my friends and my friendships because they definitely hold my hand during very difficult days that I might have. So here's what the ladies said. Overall, they basically said they never gave up on the people and things that they loved. All right? They kept doing all the things that they loved, and they kept eating all the things that they loved, and they kept, all the people that they loved around them for as long as possible. And I thought that was pretty simple, but here's what they came up with. They said number one step was learning. So I wanted to ask you all, what have you learned this week? Anything? Because if you are continuing to learn, then you are continuing to use your brain. If you're continuing to use your brain, you are continuing to make your body work in certain ways that keeps all the connections going, and you've got a much better chance of being healthy. So remember to keep learning things. I learned quite a lot this week, as you will hear. I would say that when you're dealing with serious illness, all right, perhaps the most important thing you can learn is how to cope with it. Jody's saying, I've been experimenting with different ways to slow down my thinking at night to be able to sleep. Yes, a very, very important thing to do. And, they can, give you 1,001 pills. By the way, Jody, do you take a sleeping pill? Is that something that is in I'm pretty certain you've got enough pills that you have to take with the illnesses that you have. You rattle. And so you also take a sleeping pill. And even then, that doesn't come to you. So, yeah, learning to cope. And you definitely, people just don't understand that our minds, I think I alluded to this last week, our minds are working so quickly these days with the internet and social media and things like that. Everything's happening so much faster that it's very difficult to slow the brain down. And one of the things that I've always said is literally start reading again. And by the way, I don't mean skip reading. I mean concentrate on reading every single word. Every single word. I had one viewer write to me this week and said, she actually takes my my broadcasts to bed with her and plays them. And because there's something about the tone of my voice that she finds very relaxing. And she said, it's really interesting how when I listen to you, I automatically fall asleep. Now, I could take that as a backhanded compliment and think that I'm that boring. But what she said was, it has to do with the way in which you talk. It's very relaxing. So what I would urge you to do is don't go playing games that challenge the brain, because then you're doing the opposite of what you want to do. You don't want to challenge the brain. One of the nice things about reading is that it's a bit like radio. It's theater of the mind, right? You get to draw your own idea of what is going on, as opposed to what a movie shows you what they want you to see is going on. So if you are reading, you get to use different parts of your brain, but it's inclined to be the creative parts. You visualize things, and that helps slow you down. If you're reading very slowly, it just forces the whole body to slow down, and that is what we need to be able to go to sleep. So for those of you who are dealing with very serious illness, I understand that you may need to just learn how to cope, and we will talk about that. So here's the other point. It's true that if you don't know where you currently are, then if you don't like where you are, you know what I mean? If you're going, well, I don't like that I'm in pain, or I don't like that I'm sick, and I don't like that I'm this, that, and the other, then it's time to work your way into another place. And as Jodie's doing, she doesn't like the fact that she's not sleeping at night, because she knows that's not good for her body. And so now she is busy learning different ways to help her sleep. And there's a quote that says, life is tough. And it certainly is for Jodie. But the quote says, life is tough, but so are you. So I am certain that Jodie, being Jodie, she will continue to research this until she finds a way that works for her. And I also understand that just because something works for me doesn't mean it necessarily works for the next person. So if any of you have ideas that could help Jodie, we would love to hear them. And if you're listening to this on the replay, feel free to leave some comments so that you can let Jodie know if you've managed to find ways that help you sleep, that she can learn from your experience. So some of you will pray. And I know I have a lot of viewers that have a lot of faith. And you can pray for a different outcome. But I'm pretty sure, not that I've had that discussion directly, but I'm pretty sure that God wants you to do something to show that you are willing to learn and to change. So I would like to suggest that you learn to do more than just ask God to fix it. How many of you know that one? Yeah, I pray that you fix it. Yeah. But what we don't know, and I just want to talk in terms of faith for a second, what we really don't know is what God's intent is. If you are a believer, we have no idea what God's intent for us is and why he would need us to go through whatever it is that we are dealing with. And so I would urge you to please be aware that just praying for a change is not going to necessarily make a huge difference. I started to think about how many times in my life I thought somebody would come along and fix it for me. And I can see now as I look back that I was really waiting for somebody else to do the work and take responsibility and accountability. And I just wanted to wallow. I mean, I'm not proud of that. I'm really not proud of that. But I can see that I spent years really waiting for somebody to make me whole, not realizing that the person who needed to make me whole was me. And I do know better now. And I understand now the things that I need to do. And you're going to hear, as I said, in a minute. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because it means that this may be as good as it gets. And that's an important thing to remember. I wake up every day going, I'm thankful to wake up. And I realize that how I'm feeling now, for those of you who don't know, I got cancer back in August, or I was made aware of it in August. And then I ended up with a mastectomy in November. And now I'm on some dangerous drug that's killing off the estrogen in my body, because the sort of cancer that they identified in me feeds off estrogen. So what they do is they ask me to take a pill that will kill the estrogen in my body. And I want to tell you, that's not fun. But I have to learn to cope with it. I have to learn that it's doing the right things. And even though it's got the words dangerous drug on the packet, I realize that it's a miracle drug, that people 40 years ago probably wouldn't have had the benefit of this. And that I need to be grateful for it, even though I don't like some of the, side effects of it. But I need to be grateful and learn to cope while taking it. I got a quote that says, keep your face always towards the sunshine, and then the shadows will always fall behind you. That was from Walt Whitman. And isn't that true? If we can look on the brighter side, always look on the brighter side of life, right? Monty Python, I think. Some of you know the Serenity Prayer. And in the Serenity Prayer, it says you're asking that you learn the difference between what you can control and what you can't. And I think it's really important that we reevaluate that on a regular basis. All right. Can I, for example, control the cancer within me? I'm doing the best I can. I'm learning that's this, what I'm doing is the best answer they have for it not to reoccur. But I can't control it, right? It's beyond me. So when I look at it and go, okay, what can I control? I can control me, and I do my best. Sometimes I wake up and I'm not feeling too good. And then I start to beat up on myself because I had a plan for the day that I have to give up on. And I'm having to learn to give myself forgiveness for those days. Difficult for me. I'm a doer. So when I can't do things, I get pretty frustrated. And, Vince Lombardi, the football coach, said, it's not whether you get knocked down, it's whether you get up again. And so every time I wake up and I'm feeling like a slug, I remind myself that I need to just look after myself. Remember, Jodi's always reminding me of this. Self-care is the best care you can give yourself, right? Is to listen to your body and understand it. And so I look at what can I control? And I don't worry about the things I can't control. There I try to just, what can I do? What can I do today? I don't worry about tomorrow. Don't waste my time thinking about what I should have done yesterday. What can I do today? And sometimes the steps are so small that you would actually laugh. But they are major challenges some days. And I am grateful to be able to take those. So remember, the important thing is we can't control what comes at us, right? We have to learn that how we react to it is what we can control. And I want to tell you, that is the most valuable lesson that you can learn, really, is how I choose to react to today is such an important step. As the sister said, keep learning. Jodi's saying small steps still equal progress. Very small steps, in my case, right? You remember last week I was talking about Jodi fighting so hard to do what she needed to do to be able to get into a truck. And why did she work that hard? Well, the reason was pretty plain to me. She and Lionel did not have the money to rent a proper van that would take a wheelchair. So from that perspective, she either was going to get into a truck somehow, somewhere, or she was going to have to literally save somewhere. She already was down to the bones. Um, she had tightened her belt so much, with a rent increase and everything else, that she just didn't have that extra money. And I don't know about you. I can relate to that. The cost of living is going up dramatically, and we have to learn that everything is changing in our lives and in our ability to do things. And learning to cope with that is part of being healthy. And I really had such admiration for Jody and the work that she did on her body so that she would be able to make it down the wheelchair ramp and manipulate her way into the truck when she was having that drop foot problem with her one foot. I mean, I was in awe, quite honestly, that she did it. And so she had what they call motivation, all right? Not motivation, motivation. She needed wheels to get to the appointment that she was due to go to. And that was a great motivation for him. So Jody was still sick. She was still in pain. She still had 1,001 reasons why she couldn't get to the truck, never mind get in it. But you see, her need to get to that appointment was so great that she overcame so much to get there. And I, for one, want to say, Jody, it was an incredible lesson to me. And I learned that we can overcome way more than we think we can if the need is great enough. So remember, please, that when a cat, I'll do that again, when a caterpillar thinks that its life is over, it turns into a butterfly. All right? And sometimes we need these tough times to find a bit of grace in all of it. I don't know about you. I think about my relationships, and I had to learn a lot about relationships. And I really thought that my relationships would improve if I just loved the other person more. When in fact, it was true that what I needed to do was to love myself more, to have more self-respect, and not to turn myself more into a pretzel to try and make somebody else happy. And I had to learn that if you give more than 50% to a relationship, then the chances are, if you don't give your 50%, the relationship will disappear. And I've done that with a couple of relationships where I feared that maybe I was doing too much work. And so what I would do is just they call it the distancing, but I would just create a bigger space and see if the other person reacted to the fact that I hadn't called them or contacted them or done whatever. And it's very interesting to see who comes out of the woodwork. And obviously, I want to check, are you okay? Because I haven't heard from you recently and you normally contact me more often. That's the first thing, because that's an important thing. Or have they just withdrawn for some reason? Because some people, I have learned, when they are not feeling well, when they're feeling less than confident about themselves, they withdraw. And so I want to know, what support do you need? What's going on and how can I help? But most of all, I'm amazed how many times it's just like they hadn't bothered. Okay, good to know. They don't actually say that, but if you listen very carefully and read between the lines, it's just that, it wasn't that important to them. I hadn't come to the to-do list yet. And so then I smile at myself, because that's an important bit of learning as well. And I remember this quote that says, before you judge anybody, make sure that you are perfect. And then that makes me turn the mirror around and go, who have I accidentally done that to? And then I do everything I can to make that better. So I want to tell you that it's been an interesting year for me of learning, nearly a year anyway. And every day brings more challenges, and every day I don't have to, I make the decision, the choice, whether I want to learn more or not. And I'm amazed at the things I have learned. I want to say that um, I can gripe, I can moan, I can cry, and some days I do. I can carry on, but things are really not going to change for me unless I do something to make a change. And sometimes I just need to be good enough to myself to say it's okay to take a day off. One of the funny things about being retired is, you think you've got every day off, but quite honestly, in most days, I wonder how I ever went to work. It's just like life is so busy that I wonder, how did I ever do all of this and go to work? And the answer is I had a lot more energy. And I guess that's what I notice most of all is that, the energy is sapped from you. So one of the other things I have to learn, and I'm sure Jody does and Erin, and I'm pretty certain that Nyasha's going to have to learn as well, is that the things I could do last year, I may not be able to do this year. Now, that sort of changes a lot of things because it means I'm going to need more help. And I'm not used to that. I'm used to being pretty independent. Or I'm going to need to take things a lot more slowly. Just it's going to take a lot longer to do it. Things I used to be able to do in an hour may take me a month now. And that's okay, right? And it's just to be okay with it, and just go. Do you do anything? Yeah, I used to be able to go out into the garden and pick up a leaf blower and get the whole yard cleared in an hour. That may take me a week now. If I can pick up the leaf blower, I'm not quite sure. I'll have to see. I used to be able to pull out my power washer and power wash my driveway and stuff. And I don't think I could handle that um, vibration, quite honestly. I thought about it a lot. So now I'm learning different ways. I went out yesterday with my bucket of soapy um, washing powder and just started to throw it over my driveways and scrub it with a broom a little bit, knowing that it was possibly going to rain last night, and I've got to go out there and check it after the broadcast to see how it did. But I'm going to now let other things help me clean my driveways rather than my power washing. So it's interesting to learn what is possible as opposed to what you used to do. So every day ask yourself, what have I learned today, if anything? Now, one of the things I learned this week was that I've been on a mission. Some of you know that I do a lot of crafting, and I have a machine that cuts paper, and that has a special mat. It has a special mat, and that mat gets really dirty. I have some of them actually. They get really dirty, and when they get dirty, then they stop being sticky, and then you try and clean them, and then they're not sticky, and it can be a nightmare. And so I've spent a year playing around trying to find the right glue to be able to make my mat sticky again. And it's really, I've done all sorts of research and bought all sorts of different glues. And two things have happened this week. Number one, I actually did find the right glue after all this time, but I had to bring it in from England, but it works. Yay. So I was so excited about that. But I also found that there was something I had in my house that I could clean the mats with that actually cleaned them up so beautifully that they became sticky again. And, I tried soaking them and I tried doing all the other things that they told me, but, it wasn't working. And then suddenly I found something that did. So it was an incredibly productive week in terms of that. I was very excited. And there's something about that excitement that makes you feel better, doesn't it? And then I was aware that I hadn't done much in making cards. And I just sat down one evening and I said, it doesn't matter what else you don't do. Tonight, you're just going to sit and finish some cards. And I did. I had them all cut out and I had them half made, but I hadn't finished them. And I just sat there and literally put on a movie that I didn't have to concentrate on and just finished 7 cards the first night, and then I did another 6 the following night of another card. And it was just like I had done all the work. I'd cut it all out. All the bits were ready. I just needed to assemble it. I found this quote, and it says, "I don't want to be an empath anymore." I like that. How you reclaim your power over emotional overload. How to maintain boundaries and live your best life. All right. You've got to limit what you take on. When I first met Jody, she took on everybody's problems. And one of the things that she needed to learn was she can hear everybody's problems, but she doesn't have to take them on. And I always remember, I said, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to turn yourself into an emotional pretzel. And that is not good for you, and it's not good for anybody else either. And so part of learning is to learn where to put the boundary. So remember what the sisters said. They learn something every day. And they continue to learn. They continue to challenge themselves. They continue to find out about the new technologies and learn as best they could. I'm watching a program at the moment that is the premise of it is that there's a detective who got shot and somehow or other ended up back in the 70s. And it is just such fun to watch because they've got the 70s cars and they've got, I'm not quite sure when the Walkman came in. Maybe it was the early 80s. But anyway, it's that time period. And, it's like when the Walkman was the big thing, it had just been invented. And, it was just amazing to just see how much we have learned since then. And for those of you going, what's a Walkman? It was a while ago. And I assure you, it was high tech, really high tech in its day. 79. Yes, Jody. I think I mentioned 80. I had a feeling it was 79, 80, somewhere in there. But it's really interesting to see the program because the men are so macho and they are so dismissive of women. It's not even funny. And you're going, boy, I remember those days. So the next thing that the sisters said is that they learned to change. They learned to change. You see, everything is changing, and they said they needed to keep changing with it as far as they could. And boy, do I relate to that. For me, I have to say that something as simple as walking down to my post boxes, which is a 5-minute walk, used to be very easy for me. 5 minutes there, 5 minutes back. I now know that I can make it there, but I struggle to get back because for some reason, when I started taking this pill, certain pains became much more exaggerated. And definitely I have a hip pain that is really quite nasty. And sometimes I really struggle to get back from the mailboxes. And there's part of me that is sad. And I almost cry on the way back, not just from the pain, but from the fact that, hey, what am I going to do if I can't make it to the mailbox and back again? Yeah, how am I going to do that? And I think about Erin and I think about Jody and I think about people that have, managed to continue to live their lives without being able, or let's think about Lauren, who spent her life in a wheelchair. So you look at it and you go, I need to learn to change, and that things aren't always going to be as easy as they were, and to be grateful, because I might be really grateful 5 years from now for the way I feel today. Joyce Miles said, don't wait for everything to be perfect before you enjoy your life. So I would encourage you all to change your thinking and enjoy every moment of today. This may be as good as it gets. And so I look at the change in my body in just a couple of months and go, wow. I think about Nyasha facing the possibility of maybe losing eyesight in one eye or two. And I'm hoping that's not true. And I think it's more likely to be one is a possibility. But, who knows? But how scary would that be, to think about that? And I think about that all the time. What if I lost my eyesight? What would I do to entertain myself? And so change to me is something I've always tried to embrace in certain ways rather than go away from. But I noticed that change in my health and my ability to do things is more difficult for me to adapt to. So that's why I'm learning it. But I am grateful. I'm grateful that I can see it, identify it, have the feelings around it, and then process it through to the next step. I'm grateful for that. See, I'm grateful I can still get to the mailbox. Getting back is painful, but I can still get there without pain. I noticed that this pill has caused me to put on weight. And it probably doesn't look like it because this probably makes me look slimmer, but I've put on weight here in the stomach. And I'm struggling to get it to move. And I'm doing the things that I know should work. But for some reason, I'm not doing it well enough. So I'm not going to wait around for a miracle. I know as well as you do, losing weight starts and ends in the kitchen. It's what I put in my body that puts on weight. However, I do know from experience that portion control in the kitchen and less carbs and sugars and stuff in the kitchen with exercise ends up with weight loss. And the exercise just increases it. But of course, how can I exercise if I can't walk? Well, I decided I have the way. I definitely know that I have a mini bike and I can sit down. And I thought, well, how painful is that going to be on my hips? And the news is I don't feel it anything like as much. And in fact, I, for some reason, can walk in place just by, how do I describe this to you? Okay, I can walk in place like this. I'm not lifting my toes, right? But I am just walking like this. Now that's getting all the things moving. My legs are moving, all my muscles are moving, my lungs are working, I'm getting oxygen into my system. But I'm not lifting my legs, all right? So I'm not putting my hips under that much stress. So I found that I did a experiment with it yesterday. And I did 3/4 of an hour walking like that, which is what I'm learning. What can I do? Don't concentrate on what you can't do. Work on what you can do. So you understand that feeling sorry for myself is not going to help me lose weight. In fact, it's going to do the opposite because I will comfort eat. Thinking, what's the point, is not going to help me lose weight. Doing the right things will help me lose weight. And so from my perspective, when I look at it, I need to change what I'm doing if I want my weight to shift. Because obviously somewhere between taking that pill and now, I have changed the way I eat, even if I didn't notice it. So it's time to be more aware. Or I could just continue to eat what I'm eating, put on more weight, feel sorry for myself, and be miserable. I don't want to do that. I want to feel better. I want to feel better about myself. I want to feel better knowing that I know the things now to do. Just do I want to do it? By the way, I think I mentioned to you that I bought some extra weights. I had 1 pound weights, and I bought these weights that are 2.2 pounds, and they go up to 4.4. They go 3.3 and then 4.4. But I wanted to find out, could I walk holding those weights, when I do the walking in place? And I can. I was quite surprised. And then can I use my mini bike when I'm sitting? Can I use my mini bike on the floor and at the same time do exercises with the weights? And I can. Then I looked at the fact that I've got an air glider. And can I do that still? One day I could. I did, I did 3 days without a problem. Yesterday, I couldn't do the air glider for more than 5 minutes. And I went, okay, but I did 5. So, you look at it and you go, what can you do? And keep doing it and keep adding to that list. You see, in order to feel better about myself, I need to take better care of myself. Jody taught me that one. And taking better care of yourself requires change, because most of us don't look after ourselves. We look after everybody else way better than we look after ourselves. For me, I also have to say that looking after myself takes a lot more time than I've ever given it. Because I didn't do that so well before. So now here's the next thing. When you have to give yourself way more time, other things have to fall by the wayside because you haven't got time to do everything. Yeah, you're human and you only have 24 hours. And by the way, sleeping is something I have to do more often. So I don't even have 24 hours. I don't even some days have 12. So change is really important. To be able to change and go, okay, but I did the best I could, is important. One of our viewers has ADHD. That's an inability to focus for very long. And one of the things that she came up with, and she was talking to me about it this week, was cute because it's something that I've talked about, but she called it the link strategy. In other words, she will set her timer, and that's really important because you've only got so much time to do this game. If you can see it as a game rather than as work. So she sets it for 20 minutes. I set mine for about 15, but that's okay. You set yourself a timer, and what you do is you go into the first room and you look around the room and go, what doesn't belong here? And you pick it up and take it to wherever it belongs. Then you stand in that room and you look around it and you go, what doesn't belong here? And then you pick that up and take it to the next room. Now, I've actually perfected this system where I actually take a carry-all with me, a cubie with handles. And I stand in a room and I go, what doesn't belong here? And I huck everything into the cubie. And then when it's, I normally nearly fill it up. And then what I do is I walk to the next room and I go, what have I got in the cubie that belongs in this room? But before I leave this room, what else doesn't belong in this room? And then I load it up some more. And then I keep going around the house like that. It is amazing how many things I end up moving, but it amuses me. I see it as a game. I don't see it as hard work. I actually end up laughing a lot about it. The Buddha said, what you think, you become. What you feel, you attract. And what you imagine, you create. I want to repeat that. What you think, you become. So if you think that you are taking little steps towards progress every day, guess what? You're right. What you feel, you attract. If you feel that you're doing your best, then you are going to feel good. But if you feel hard done by and why me as opposed to why not me, if you spend your time thinking on the negative side, you will attract more negative. And what you imagine, you create. I'm pretty certain that Jody imagined that she could still get into that truck. And that's why she created that possibility. However difficult it might have been, she actually had to believe at some level that she could do it, or else it wouldn't have happened. I like this. It said you don't need fancy things to feel good. You need to hug a puppy. You can buy a plant and surround yourself with color. You can plant a flower and watch it grow. You can decide to start over and let other people start over too. So many lessons in that, huh? I'm thinking so many lessons in that if you listen to it. I, a couple of months ago, showed you that I had managed to propagate 30 different plants from my impatient plant that I managed to keep going all through winter. I had propagated 30 of them from one plant. I think I have less than a dozen left because some bug got into them. Was it heartbreaking? Yes. Was I devastated? Yes. But was I grateful I still had 12 left? Very much so. Very much so. And so now I know there's a possibility every year I'm going to lose at least half of what I managed to nurture. And so I had to just take a deep breath and go, it is what it is. Now move on, right? So what I liked about the ADHD viewer is that she keeps coming up with strategies that help her concentrate. All right. And I really recommend that. Don't let the day go by without concentrating and focusing your attention. And we've talked about that in the last couple of weeks, how to deal with distractions, how to improve your concentration. All those things are really important, if only for a short period of time. And what I try to do now is I go, this is my focus for the next hour, and anything else I do is a distraction. Even if it's really important, it's still a distraction. And that's okay. I'm allowed distractions. And now I see my distractions as in a different light. I see them as ways to just give myself a bit of breathing space before the next bit of focus, because I can't focus for very long either, suddenly. So how about the fact that we need to change our thinking about the way we cope is going to be a key element now. All right. I'm certain that Jody and Lionel have had to change the way they think about coping tremendously over the last decade or so. I look at it and go, hey, I'm not the first person to hit these problems. And therefore, I have an incredible mentor, a lady who's had breast cancer and who, is sort of 10 years in, but spends her life helping other women with breast cancer. And, I notice that every morning when I speak with her, I am as committed to looking after her as she is looking after me. I just have different things that I need to help her with. And I like that. This is not a one-way trade. It feels good for me to be able to help her the way that she feels good being able to help me. So when we understand that life just gives us things and how we cope with them and how we react to them is what makes us happy or not, that's a big change. So ask yourself every day, what have I learned? Number one. Number two, what change am I resisting? And what changes have I taken? All right. If you can answer those two questions, you're doing pretty well, because change is part of your life. The third thing that the sisters talked about was a bit of a no-brainer for a lot of you. They said that laughter was a huge part of their life, right? The reason that they think they lived past 100 and nearly 110, both of them, is because they laugh a lot. They get very amused with things. And I want to tell you that if you don't make time to laugh, that you might not have time to laugh. And the reason I say that is, for some of us, we think that entertaining ourselves is a waste of time. Well, it isn't. And one of the things I really love about Jodie and Lionel, for example, is that I know they make time to laugh every day. They watch programs that make them laugh. They do things that make them laugh. To me, that's a really important part of anybody's matrix that you need to put into your life if you want to feel better. You need to be making yourself laugh, or making other people laugh. Equally important. I've got to drink my coffee. It's getting good. It is cold. The other thing the sisters said is they have friends who laugh a lot. In other words, they associate with people who make them laugh, and that they can make laugh. And that is part of the issue as well, right? Can you make somebody else laugh? I hope you can. And I would ask you to think about, how much do you laugh in a day? I personally laugh at myself a lot. Mind you, if you lived my life, you'd also laugh at me a lot. But, that's one of the things I'm grateful for. I can laugh at myself a whole lot. For example, when I was on the air glider, and I normally can do 10 minutes without it being a problem, and it was only 5, I went, well, that didn't go quite as well as you thought. But you did 5. Be grateful. So, and I was laughing as I did it, and I got off. By the way, I have a new exercise that I do. And the reason is because when I was cleaning that warming drawer area out last week, I found out that I struggled to get up. I couldn't get up off the floor as well, very easily. In fact, it was a little bit scary. So 2 things that I wanted to share with you. Now, hold on a second. The one thing is, every time I have to go down near the floor, I always have something I can hold on to. And this is my sort of mop thing here. And what I did was I got down, but I struggled to get back up again. All right. And if you could have seen me, you would have laughed. Now, there's part of me that wants to get down on the ground so I can show you how much I struggled. And there's part of me that goes, I don't think I want to risk it right now, because what if I can't get up properly at all? I would upset a lot of you. So I don't want to do that, but know it to be a fact. So here's what I did. I said, okay, fine. I need to go down onto my knees and get up again every day until I've rebuilt those muscles that are struggling. Now, kneeling is the upper thing. So what I do now is, when I go into my bedroom, I put a pillow down on the floor next to my bed, and I kneel the way that I used to kneel, to say my prayers as a kid. And I normally have the television on, and I'm watching the news or something. And sometimes I stay there for a little while, and then I go, okay, time to get back up again. And then the trick is to get back up again using my right leg as taking most of the weight. That's the one that hurts. And then I do the same thing again, get back down again, and then come back using my right leg as the one that's taking the weight. All right. But luckily, the bed is at the right height so that it can take a lot of the pressure. Now, obviously, my goal is to be able to get up from kneeling without putting that much pressure on the bed eventually, that I will have built enough of my core strength with the weights and everything, and rebuilt my legs enough that I can get up without, putting all that pressure on the bed. But here's the funny thing I found. It made me laugh. And that is, if you can imagine, this is the bed, and here I am kneeling, okay? And what I found is, if I try and sit upright like this, hang on, let me think about this. Here are my heels. Okay, so here are my heels. If I try to sit upright, no, it's wrong. That's how I want to sit. Okay, so I lean back so that my butt hits my heels. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? I can't do that anymore. I can't sit upright and put my butt on my heels. Now, you all know that you used to be able to do that. It is so funny. It makes me laugh how little I can come up towards my heels. Now, again, I can see that as devastating and cry my heart out. Or I can see it as a challenge. Or I can see it as humorous. So at the moment, I decided I would make it a game and see how I'm doing. And the first thing is that I actually will put my hands like this on my bed, and then I will just slowly put my butt back and get as far as I can to stretch those muscles. I'm not even bothering to try and sit up and do it because I know I don't have the stretch in my muscles. So the first thing I'm doing is go, can you keep the weight on the bed and then get your butt down onto your heels? There's the thing, because I don't want to snap anything. I'm getting better. It may take a couple of months, but I will do it. You see, it's one step closer to being able to do everything else that I want to do. So it might take me all year, but I'm on it. So it makes me laugh a lot. I choose to see it as something humorous rather than not, and that to me is really important. So how much are you laughing? That's the question. How much are you laughing? Is that something that you make a point of every day? It's interesting that Jody's saying, and I know you'll do it. Well, I like you, Jody. I want to tell you something. After you got into that truck, I realized, boy, if Jody can do the work to get into the truck, then I can certainly do the work. And I thank you for that inspiration, because I said I can certainly do the work to be able to do this. Even if I have to do it little bit by little bit, but I will do it until I can do it. This was nice. It said, you will have days where you feel better. And you will have days when you will want to die. Both are okay. There is no magical cure. You just need to close your eyes and trust that the waves will pass. And soon, you will feel better again. I know that's not very funny, but it is a reality. And those of us who have walked that path will tell you, you can still laugh within that. You can still laugh if you choose to. You still can see the humor if you want to. Or you can curl up in a ball. So I was thinking of all the different ways that we could find humor. I mean, some of you might say, hey, when did I last go out to a comedy club? Right? When did we last go out? But when did you last go out to a comedy club? All right. When did you last watch some of the funniest comedians of all time? And we have no excuse. We've got so much on our streaming and YouTube and everything else these days that we have no excuse not to laugh. All right. And don't wait for somebody else to come and make you laugh. How about you make somebody else laugh? Because that'll make you laugh. As I said, learn to laugh at yourself a lot more. You are very funny if you care to. The things that I do, and I'm going, thank goodness I wasn't on video right then. And so therefore find yourself more amusing. It is really important to find yourself more amusing. And to find, to think about, this is where I was last year and this is where I am this year, but boy, at least I'm still here. And that is part of what is more amusing. And it says here that we must let go of the life that we planned so as to accept the one that is waiting for us. Right? I am sure that that is the reality in a way that Nyasha will be working with, all right? That she needs to understand that she may not make it through this operation with two eyes working, but she may end up with one working beautifully, which will give her better vision than she's probably had for decades. So, or she may end up with both. There is that incredible likelihood that it could happen. But, to be grateful for whatever happens because she will be alive. And the fourth thing that the sisters talked about, and I thought was so true, was they said that they interact a lot. And they believed that was part of their longevity. They had friends. Well, I'm not surprised they did because they laugh a lot. And they met with their friends. And they all laughed together. They met with their friends and they laughed while they were learning new things. You see, the whole thing was just like a giant Jenga that all worked together. And then they also met with their friends and they learned new things and how to cope with them. Because when you meet your friends a lot, you learn the good, bad, and the ugly. Because that's what makes a friend. A friend doesn't just share the good stuff with you. All right? A friend is not scared to tell you the bad stuff. Doesn't feel that they will put you on a downer by telling you they're not doing well. All right? Because you see, that's what friends are for. They're there to support you when you're not doing well. They said that they constantly opened themselves up to social situations. All right? They were always doing stuff. Going out and taking a new course, where they would learn things and also meet new people that would make them laugh and help change their perspective on things and so forth. You understand, it's all intertwined. It's really interesting that I had somebody that was due to come visit me last Saturday, and they needed to cancel because something was more important to them. Basically, that's what it was. And I understood that. And that was fine. So they asked, could they come tomorrow? So I said, absolutely, no problem. Didn't do a guilt trip, just said, no problem. See you then. However, during the week, I heard from Yvonne and Wade, and they want to come and help me because they know I've got a problem. The light in my bedroom, I got a big light with a big fan on it. And for some reason, that light suddenly stopped working. And I checked the breakers, everything else, and there's no reason why that light should not work. And I turned it on and off, and I used the remote, and I then had Yvonne come over. And she and I did the same things to make sure that she could see that I had tried all the different things. And then she went to go and discuss it with Wade, because one of the things I don't want to do is spend $300 to get an electrician in. And, when it could be a simple answer. And what Wade said, that's so kind of you. Thank you. Somebody's just said, you have great storytelling abilities. That's very kind of you. You have great listening skills. Takes one wizard to see another. Anyway, so what Yvonne had said to me is, maybe we don't need to bring electrician in. Maybe we need to just change the light or the fan. So I said, now that is brilliant thinking. Go discuss it with Wade. Now, Wade works at Home Depot in the lighting department. So guess what? He knows about all these things, right? So I said, well, go discuss it. I'm dropping here. Go and discuss it with Wade and see what he thinks. So Wade got back to me last night, and one of the things he said is he did some research on the new fan that I put in after the new fan that I put in, and it actually is very vulnerable to power outages. Well, I think you guys know I get more than my fair share of power outages in this house. And so he says he thinks that it's the power outages that have caused that light to fail. So his recommendation is that most of those fans are subject to that, those sort of, light and fan in one. And he said, you may want to rethink having a light and fan and just put a light up there and then cool your bedroom, either with another air conditioner in your bedroom or, a stand-up fan or something, right? So I thought that was brilliant. So now the question was, but do we want to buy that before we find out whether it's an electrical problem or not, which Wade will be able to tell me. And I doubt it's an electrical problem in terms of wiring or anything, because the house was rewired. So he said, well, don't worry. The worst that can happen is I can take the light back to the store. If we find, that we can fix the other one, then I'll just take the light back. I thought that was so kind. And I was thinking, if I hadn't had the interaction with Yvonne, if I hadn't spoken to Yvonne, then, she wouldn't have had the brilliant idea to change the light rather than spend $300 on an electrician. And, we wouldn't have got as far as we have. So I found that quite amusing. And I get to see them both, and they both make me laugh. But wait, have we forgotten that I already have another friend coming? So what I said was, okay, just to let you know, you won't be on your own. Right? I made sure that everybody knows that everybody else will be there. So, and I haven't had confirmation from the other friend yet that she's definitely coming tomorrow, so she may bail on me, in which case I will just have Yvonne and Wade. But I said to them, feel free to let me know what it is you'd like to eat if you would like to stay and have dinner with me. Well, you know what they said, mac and cheese, because I make a good mac and cheese. And that made me laugh. Of all the things that I could cook for them, what they really wanted was Sal's mac and cheese. And I was thinking how fun that's going to be, because, the two of them always make me laugh and I make them laugh. And so that's going to be absolutely wonderful. And we're going to have lots of interaction. We're going to learn lots about whether, why that light isn't working. And we're going to change maybe a light, maybe a way of cooling my bedroom. Because, I'm at the stage right now where I'm not sure whether to turn my gas fireplace off completely. But, if I do that, I'm going to need it back on again. So I'm going to get to have lots of interaction tomorrow. 3 times as much as usual, which is very exciting to me. And so the other thing I would ask you to ask yourself is, when did you last invite somebody over? Or when did you last go out and eat with other people? Or even just go and have coffee with somebody? Or a meal? All right. When did you last go and maybe interact with nature? When did you last take a trip to the beach? When did you last take a trip to a forest? When did you last just take a drive and then stop for an ice cream and talk to the person who sells them? You see, I believe that these little interactions are all part of what makes us feel good and makes us feel better. And why? Because we have to put in some effort. Now, would it be fair when you think about it? Would it be fair to say that I could wake up tomorrow morning not feeling well and have to cancel? Yeah, it's possible. I don't want to dwell on that until tomorrow. But you know the other thing? I know that people well enough to know that if I had to do that, they would totally understand. And they would probably insist on coming anyway and maybe bring me poutine. That would be clever. I still have not had poutine. Can you believe that? After all this time, I have not had poutine for probably over a year. It's definitely time. So if you just did these 4 things that we've talked about, if you made sure that you learn something every day, that you research something, that's learning. That you try a new skill, that's learning. If you change every day, change slightly something, how you do something, change the combination of clothes that you wear. I make a point, I think you know that, I make a point that every change of season, I make sure I buy at least one new thing to wear for that new season. And funny enough, this tracksuit that I have, I bought ready for the winter, not knowing that it was thin. And when I got it, I went, that's not going to do for winter at all, but it will do for spring. So now this is my new tracksuit for spring. And to me, this is like so exciting. But I've also just ordered a new top to go underneath. And now I realize that I'm not going to be able to wear the same tank tops that I used to wear last year. Why? I'm missing a boob. And, it doesn't matter. Even if you have a false boob, if you lean forward, people can see you've only got one boob. So that doesn't work. So I'm going to need more T-shirts like this, right? That have a V, but not too deep. Or tank tops that are V-shaped rather than, like this. That's a change. That won't be quite the way I would normally do it. I wear tank tops all the time in the summer. So I've got a lot of tank tops that I'm not going to be able to use, but I'm making a plan, and I'll talk to you about that. You see, but getting upset about it is not going to make you're not going to change it, right? It's still going to end up having to make a plan. And so I look at it and go, but I interacted a lot. I talked to people who had the same problem and found out what they did. And the same thing as one of the problems I had was that, you can see the difference, right? This is the fake boob and this is my real boob. Can you see the difference in where they are? Now, you can't notice it so much when, it's everyday stuff, right? You probably, now you will not be able to unsee that. I understand that. So now I've got to find a way to weight this one down so it's like a 75-year-old boob, not like a perky little 20-year-old one. And are any of you laughing about that? Because I keep laughing about it. And that's what I'm working on now, is how do I weight that boob down? And you have no idea how many different ways I've come up with. So when you look at it as well, would you ask yourself, am I doing these 4 things? Am I learning? Am I, changing? Am I laughing? Am I interacting? And if you are, then you, with all due respect, you are living, not existing. And I think that is the whole thing about this, which is when you live, with whatever it is that's going on. You will feel better when you live. I know that in my life, I have certain elements to my life. I have my family and friends. I have my creativity. I have my bills, my accounting type stuff. I have my goals, my long-term goals. I have my housekeeping, and all these sort of things, right? I have different categories. I try to make sure that every day I do one thing in each of those categories, just one. So when I go to bed at night, I can check, did I do something for the house today? Yes. Did I do something that was creative today? Yes. Did I do something to make sure that I was paying my bills or get my accounts ready or whatever? Yes. And that's what I have this checklist. And so by the end of the day, I know I have lived in balance. Have I been out for fresh air? Fresh air is one of my components. Have I been outside to get some fresh air? Doesn't matter for how little time. And while I go outside, I leave my door open if I'm in my garden, right? Just so that the fresh air can get into my house. Did I get some exercise? It doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes on the air glider. But can I sit down and binge watch something while pedaling on my mini, under desk bike type thing? It's wonderful for exercising and bringing my heart rate up. You see, there's so many things I can do. Don't concentrate on what you can't. And so I look at it and I go, if I can say yes to all these different components every day, then I am living, not existing. Did I laugh today? I lived, I laughed. Did I learn today? You see, all vital parts of not feeling sorry for yourself, not waiting for somebody else to fix the problem. Did I take one little step? I'm in the process of trying to actually build a second trellis for my tomatoes and peppers. And last year I did it in a day. Right? I took a day and built this thing. I'm doing it 15 minutes at a time at the moment, but I'm about halfway there now. And every day I go in there and I go, okay, what's the next step that you're going to take? Doesn't matter that you only put 2 bits together. It's like, what is the next step you're going to take? And then I laugh because I go, remember when you could do all of this in one day without any problem at all? And yep, but that was then. And I spend as much time taking it apart as I am putting it together because I haven't got the concentration. And that bit was meant to be the other way up. And so I am learning to laugh at myself and go, yep, that would have been nice if you noticed that beforehand, but I didn't. And that's okay. I'm not in any rush. The only rush would be to try and get it finished before April finishes, right? So I've got it ready for then. So my big question to you is, are you living or are you existing? And when you think about it, how much time do you spend being happy, regardless of what your situation is? And there's a quote here that said, there is a difference between giving up and knowing when you've had enough. I think that is the biggest learning for me, because I am not a lazy person. And what happens to me is when I'm not feeling well and I get tired so quickly, that I feel like I'm quitting. And I have to remind myself, no, I need to stop to let my body rebuild some energy before I can start again. And it's okay to do that. And nobody is watching you, and it's your life, and you have earned the right to spend some time catnapping if that's what you need. Thank you, Jody, for teaching me that to listen to my body when it's that tired. And quite honestly, I don't mind telling you, that when I had the mastectomy and they told me, they got it all and that there wasn't in the lymph nodes, I thought I was done. I really did. I thought I was done. No wonder I was such a happy camper. I had no idea I was going to have to take this drug and that the drug would make me feel the way that it does. But that's a choice. I don't have to take it. They just recommended that I did. But you know something? Every day I have to decide, do I still want to take it? Because I don't have to. It's just I'm a lot safer if I do. And there have been days when I thought, why would I want to take this drug? It makes me feel terrible. Well, I know why. Now, this is what I thought was a really nice point to make here, roundabout now. Stop trying to feel better. Instead, become better at feeling. You see, feelings are things we can control. Feelings are things that we need to be aware of, not good or bad. When I'm feeling angry, it's not bad. It's understandable. Of course I'm angry. My body's not working the way it used to. But then I'm grateful it's working as well as it does. I'm not happy that I'm losing a lot of hair. But I'm grateful for my Clarence the Cleaner robot that picks it all up. It's like all these things are part of feeling the feelings. And that's how I choose to take it, which is this is all about learning how to deal with my feelings better and how not to let them overwhelm me and how to distract myself away from feeling some things and then feel other things to compensate. If I'm feeling a little sore, maybe it's time to sit and create where it'll take up a lot of my mind. It's a good distraction for my mind. So there we have it. What do you want to do? I would like to say that if we want to feel better, we have to do better. If we want to feel better, the pills won't always do it for us. I'm taking a pill that's meant to make me better. It's making me worse in some ways. But the end result will be better. And so I beg you all to look at your life and go, hey, Nyasha's about to have both her eyes operated on. That's pretty scary stuff. I'd rather have my hip pain. I'd rather have the after effects of taking this pill that I'm taking. Because I would be as terrified as she is. And that's not wrong. That doesn't make her weak or stupid or anything like that. What it is perfectly understandable that she would be terrified. There were moments during the process of going through a mastectomy where I was terrified. Only a couple. When they injected me with nuclear material, I was terrified of that. I don't mind telling you. To think that they were putting nuclear stuff into my boob terrified me. And the fact that they didn't give me anything to dull the pain, like an injection, for example, that only terrified me after it happened. Actually, it terrified me the thought that they were going to do it without an injection. But when I look at it, it was fleeting. By the time I'd finished feeling sorry for myself, it was over. And I was on to the next step, not knowing what was coming, for which I was sort of a little bit glad now. So I wonder where I will be this time next year and where you will be this time next year. We have no idea. Will I still be around this time next year? And will you? I don't know. Will I be around tomorrow? I hope so. I want to laugh with Yvonne and Wade. But we don't know. So we might as well enjoy today as best we can. And we might as well do the best we possibly can, as Jody has been doing, and as Erin does, and so forth. You look at it and you go, Jeannie, who's been through, the loss of her husband and the loss of her pet of many years that she absolutely adored. You go, all the time she is having to decide, does she want to live or exist? And having a year of loss like that, horrible. And not only that, but remember that she and I both had fires in our homes and we lost so much. She lost way more than I did. But she's still in there doing the best she can to help herself feel better. And so I really wanted to make the time today to say to you, don't give up. Know what to do. All right? Keep learning. Use it as a distraction. Keep understanding that you are going to change and need to change maybe on a daily basis. Don't resent it. Understand it's part of your new existence. Make sure that you laugh and that you make a point of doing things that make you laugh or find yourself amusing or go and be around people who are amusing. And then make sure you interact. Don't isolate yourself. And by the way, if you're going, yeah, but I don't like the people I interact with, find new people. Join a club. Do something. Join a gardening club if you like gardens. I was amazed how that worked for me. Is I started even. I think this week I will learn something new about my roses. That's what I decided to do. And that's how I word it now. What new thing can I learn? And so, look at opportunities to change your thinking, and you will be feeling a lot better. This is Dear Mama Sal saying thank you all for being here with me. I hope it made some sense, and if it did, give it a thumbs up. And I hope that you can see so much of how we feel is controllable because it's a feeling. And if it's a feeling, it's within our control. And if you can control it and understand there are no good or bad feelings, they just are the way you're feeling today or this moment. You can decide how long you want to feel like that. That is the ultimate understanding. You can decide how long you want to feel like that. And the way that you shift it is by what you do next. And so all the time, say to yourself, yes, that's what I'm feeling, but what do I want to do about it, if anything? And so when I wake up feeling the pits, I struggle to get coffee, and I sit there with my coffee and I think, well, you feel like the pits. What do you want to do about it? And sometimes my little voice in my head says, curl up and go back to sleep. And I'm having to change my thinking and go, if that's what you need to do, that's okay. I give you permission to do that and not feel guilty. And one night this week, I slept for a full 10 hours. I never do that. I'm lucky if I get 6. I slept 10 hours. I knew it was going to be a great day. I got up and I went, okay. And I got my coffee and sat down at my computer, and the energy just went. And I went, no, I slept for 10 hours. I'm meant to be energized now. And my body said, no, you're not. And guess what? I didn't get any energy the whole day. And I just had to change my thinking. I had to look at it and laugh and get on with whatever I could. And that wasn't very much other than rest. That was my living, the best I could do. And I did my best. This is DearMamaSal saying, make your choices. Understand you have a lot more control than you think. And we will see you tonight. For those of you who enjoy Coping with Life, where we talk about how to cook on a budget. This is DearMamaSal saying thank you for your time. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you all for sharing your stories with me so I can tell them to others and help them. This is DearMamaSal saying thank you for your help, Jody. our admin, and to all of you. Have a wonderful afternoon. I'll see some of you this evening. Bye bye for now.